I thought I'd done a video about this before. So, everybody knows my affinity for Jason Voorhees. And then I watched parts 6, 7, and 8 with my wife this week. And I think, why? What is it? What is it about Jason? Why? What is it? Why? And I mean, I've watched now, in the time I've been with her, which is a little over 4 years, I've watched the original, I've watched the reboot. She doesn't remember watching the reboot. I know we watched part 2, I know we watched part 3. And part 4, I know I watched part 4 with her. And so the only one I skipped was 5. We haven't watched Jason X. We watched Jason Goes to Hell. We watched Freddy versus Jason. Yes, I've managed to watch almost every Friday the 13th movie with her. All the important ones, really. And yet, you get this whole schmozzle together, and you look at the whole storyline, and you go, really kind of stupid. This whole thing is, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, it doesn't make any sense. I would love, and this is just me, I would love to do a hard reboot of the entire Friday the 13th. And I would plot it out like your major franchises. And not only that, but Universal had this idea of, hey, so we're going to have the Mummy movie with Tom Cruise, and we're going to have the Invisible Man, we're going to have all this, we're going to put all these monsters together, and then the Mummy nosedived, which anybody could have told them it was going to do. I think if you had a cinematic universe which included, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Pinhead, had some kind of way of mixing them together, I could think of ways to do it. And I think it could work. But you have to make the movie smart. I think one thing that's changed with horror movies from what they were back in the 80s is, for them to work, they kind of have to be good. And I say that because they weren't. So when Friday the 13th rebooted in 2009, and I saw critics and fans saying, this movie's terrible. It's a Friday the 13th movie. And then I watched it and I was like, actually, in terms of its movie, its story, and the characters, there's a little bit more to the characters than usual. And it feels like it's more of a movie. Especially more of a movie than some of the later Friday the 13th that they were making. So, your basics are simple. If I was going to reboot it, it's simple. Jason Voorhees' mother's summer camp. You have to hit those 3. I would not have a hockey mask in it. I would have Jason as a kid. And I know people are going to say, you're going to do the Rob Zombie thing. No. What Rob Zombie did, and I think where it fell apart, is that the studio got involved and said, you have to have this in it. And so it had to end up like the original Halloween. It had to have the same people being killed. Now, of course, they were a little more grim, the murders, than in the original Halloween movie. But it still basically hit beat for beat. The last 20 minutes of Halloween, the Rob Zombie version, is, to me anyways, the worst part of the movie. Because we've seen this. We've seen it. He tried to put a little bit more of a twist at the end of it, but we've seen this movie. And I think if you got more into... See, and then there's the other problem, too. It's Haddonfield, Illinois, and yet when you're watching this, you thought, are they in Louisiana? Like, where are they? What is going on here? So, and again, that's how Rob Zombie works. He definitely has the redneck characters, and I thought that kind of hurt the movie, too. I thought if it had just been a regular family, that would have made it scarier. If it had been just a regular family, and Michael decides, I guess I'm going to kill my sister, that makes it more scary. So, with that in mind, I would have this set probably in California. And I know that's not where the original was filmed, and that's not where the original idea was. I would have it in California. I would have it at some kind of a California camp. And Jason and his mother, I would probably make them like small town. And the other kids in the camp, probably more the city kids. Maybe a lot of them know each other. And they don't know Jason. And Jason's different. He has hydrocephalus and is a little bit slower than the other kids. And I would have, like, his mother, I would start it with his mother and Jason at home. And his mother's borderline abusive, but not really, but kind of sort of. And she's really overprotective of Jason. And we understand it because he's different. So I might have, like, maybe they go to the store and she's getting stuff and somebody walks by and they kind of give Jason the side eye. She goes, "Pardon me. Do you have something to say? Do you want to say something to my boy? Come on, Jason. Jason, this man has something to say to you. What do you have to say to my boy?" And then, "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry. And that kind of thing, so that she's really defensive and protective. Now, Jason doesn't speak. This is a storyline thing that goes back forever, and it's in the books, it's in the movies that he doesn't speak. And I think that's probably for the best that he doesn't speak. And you could have, and I remember reading the book for Friday the 13th Part 6 and going, this is so much better than the movie. This has storyline in it. And it had this idea that there was a psychiatrist who flipped out. There was nothing wrong with Jason. Jason just didn't talk. And so he flips out on Jason, yelling and screaming right up in the kid's face. "I know you can talk. I know you can talk. Tell me the truth. Tell me you can talk." And Jason says, "Yes." Never spoke again to that shrink. Drove him completely batty. Mad. Insane. You could have that in this movie where somebody's working with him and maybe there's mumbling. Jason's in the room and you hear mumbling, right? And so maybe it's a tutor, maybe it's a shrink, comes into the room and, "Jason, were you talking to yourself?" Nothing. He's just staring straight ahead. "Okay, Jason, I heard you talking. We could have this relationship if you just talk to me." And then he flips out, and then the mother throws him out. Pamela Voorhees says, "Get out of my house. Leave my son alone. You're badgering him. He's a good kid. He's my boy." So Jason goes to camp, and maybe the mother doesn't leave. Maybe the mother drops Jason off and then decides, you know what? I don't trust these counselors. I don't trust them to do their jobs. I don't trust anybody with Jason who's not me. So she hangs out in the woods and keeps an eye on things. And then at some point during the movie, at summer camp, the kids are picking on Jason. Mom sees this. She comes out to confront these kids who are picking on her poor boy who's not doing anything. Jason would not be violent. Jason wouldn't be, killing puppies and this kind of thing. In fact, if anything, you could have a scene where Jason is befriending an animal, a wild animal even, where he's got some kind of a kinship, and then kids come along, "Oh, look, Jason made a friend. He's got himself a friend. He's better than, he doesn't have friends around here." And again, that's where his mother can come in. "You leave my boy alone. I have a good boy here. You leave him alone." And then the kids get the counselors. The counselors say, "Mrs. Voorhees, you have to leave. You have to go. You can't be here." So she freaks out. She is choked that she is being made to leave. So they walk her to her car and they make sure she drives away before they head back to the camp. So it's this big thing. Now the kids are terrible to Jason. The kids are just your mommy's boy. Now he's mommy's boy too. He's not just slow. He's not just different. Now he's mommy's boy too. So they have like a swimming lesson. Jason's not a good swimmer. So Jason's got the life jacket on and he's maybe doing a bit of a dog paddle. The other kids are still on him. Like, "Oh, look who needs," and they're swimming around him. They're swimming circles around him. Maybe somebody's grabbing his foot and pretending they're going to pull him under the water and he's kind of like freaking out. But again, no sound. No sound. He can look panicked, but no sound. So the counselors get mad at the kids. Maybe a couple of the kids end up in a timeout. And Jason, with the life jacket on, he's got his head down, and you can see Jason is upset that he doesn't fit in with the other kids, and they're taunting him because he's got a life jacket. They're taunting him because he can't swim as well. So Jason, on his own, goes out to the lake, and he starts swimming around a little bit. And he gets a little confident. He's still got the life jacket on. He starts swimming out a little bit. He starts feeling a little bit confident. Maybe you see a smile on Jason's face. Maybe he swims out halfway and he swims back. He's got a smile and you're like, "Hey, Jason's figuring out the swimming thing." So Jason comes out of the water. And there's two ways you can do this. Either Jason takes off the life jacket or one of the bully kids or one of the jerk kids comes out. If you want to really do this. Or maybe there's a kid that likes Jason. And now that Jason's alone, he can finally go and go, "Jason, I know you understand me. I know you're not dumb. These guys all think you're dumb. I know that you're not a great swimmer. They're going to pick on you if you're still wearing that life jacket. You have to try it without a life jacket. And then Jason just, again, head down, because his mother's taught him his whole life you can't trust people. Jason head down, goes back to the cabin the next night. Jason comes out and swims. No life jacket, goes out to the middle of the lake and comes back. A little bit short of breath. Decides, I'm doing it again. And again, you would have to get a kid actor that you can see visually what they're going to do, because there would be no verbal cues. Jason can't speak. Jason goes out, and then maybe he's got something wrapped around his foot. Maybe he runs out of breath. Maybe he gets scared and he starts to panic. He looks back and realizes, I'm too far out. So he starts to drown. He goes down. Now, bodies float on the water. That's something that Friday the 13th itself forgets. Bodies at the bottom of the lake, and I'm like, oh, if that's not tied down to the weight, it's not going to stay there. Oh, it's going to stay there? Okay, yeah, physics don't work in the Friday the 13th universe. So, Jason goes down. Worst thing ever. Counselors get up the next morning, realize Jason's missing. Don't even think about the lake. Don't even think about it. Now, meanwhile, Pamela Voorhees, it's Jason's birthday. It's Friday, and she's picking him up from camp, and she's brought him a cake, and she's all excited that it's his birthday. So she gets to the camp, all excited for his birthday, realizing it's not time for me to pick him up yet, but that's okay. It's okay. I don't need to pick him up. I'll drop off the cake, and there's enough cake here for all the kids. It's fine. Everybody gets some cake. It'll be fine. She gets here. She sees an ambulance, and right away, her mommy sense is tingling, right? Like, something bad's going on here. And sure enough, she rushes out of the car. The cake has to fall on the ground. The cake has to be destroyed as she's trying to get to the camp, right? Because that has to be your sort of foreboding sense starting that, okay, now Pamela Voorhees, who had this good feeling coming to the camp, like, I've got to trust these kids. The counselors did what they were supposed to do. Yay. She gets there. The cake has to hit the ground. It has to be a complete mess. She doesn't care. She rushes. She sees her boy being taken out of the lake, and they're trying to do CPR, and they realize it's too late. He's been in the water for 10, 12 hours. Pamela Voorhees, seeing him, she freaks out, goes straight to the counselors and starts yelling and screaming and shrieking at him. And she starts strangling one of the counselors, and the other counselors wrench her off of there and say, What the hell? Get out. Just go. We're upset too. We didn't mean for this to happen. This wasn't on purpose. His counselor's name was Frank. It wasn't Frank's fault. He was sleeping. Jason snuck out after dark. You blaming my boy for being dead, or you blaming my boy for being dead? So Jason's out of the lake. And that's where it would be different than it is in the Friday the 13th movies. So there's two ways you can go about this. If you're going to make Friday the 13th where Jason is unkillable, and he's been that way throughout the movies, right? So the idea that he was at the bottom of a lake for years, and then he comes out, and then he's all of a sudden an adult. So either he didn't actually drown in the original movie, and it's just assumed that he drowned, and they just never found his body. Or he drowned and he came back and he's an unkillable monster, which is, again, that you can go with that if you want. In this, I would make it so that Jason is dead. Maybe when they get him to the hospital, there's a doctor who goes, he was in the water. He's preserved. We're going to try something. And maybe there's some kind of experimental way you can bring somebody back. And you can get him going again. You can get his heart restarted. Something, right? And again, you can get into almost like a Frankenstein kind of thing with it. Well, Pamela Voorhees is your prime concern from here. So you can have scenes where they're trying to resuscitate Jason, but they don't want to give his mother any kind of real hope for that. So they're kind of telling her, look, Mrs. Voorhees, your son is gone. We may be able to try something. She says, you do whatever you have to save my boy. But when she's not at that hospital, she is just seething. She heads to the camp. And again, you'd have to have a scene where she's in her car and she's just glaring at that lake. And then she turns her attention to the cabins. And maybe you see a couple counselors off fooling around. And she's like, holy crap, my boy died. You know, that group of campers went home. And these counselors are so broken up over what happened to my boy, they're off having sex. I forget it. And maybe one of the counselors that's involved is the counselor who had Jason in his cabin. Pamela says, forget this. Gets out of the car. Maybe she's got the knife from earlier that she brought with the cake. Right? Maybe she had a knife she was going to use to cut the cake. And she still got it in the car. So she takes the knife and does in both counselors. So this is where it gets tricky. That is where I would end that movie. I would end it with her killing the two counselors. The doctors reviving Jason somehow. Some way Jason is revived. And you can change how he drowns, when he drowns, what happens. Maybe he's not dead drowned. Maybe he sort of, whatever it is. Pamela Voorhees needs to be enraged. Jason needs to either drown or almost drown. And at the end of the movie, Jason is okay-ish. So it's, he was slow to start with, and now he's even a little bit more off than he was. She's a killer. And you set up that the camp's going to get shut down. And you set up a second movie. Now, the reason this would never get made is simple. I only have 2 kills. And they're at the very end of the movie. And there's all kinds of storyline with Jason to make you feel bad for Jason, right? To potentially hate his mother or understand his mother. Take that side. Not really like the other campers. And again, you don't want to make all of them complete pricks. Because you got to make at least a couple of them likable or feeling bad about picking on Jason. Or kind of leave him alone kind of thing, right? But you leave that there. And then you can leave it open so that in a sequel, maybe Jason's after the other counselors and campers that either picked on him or weren't nice to him. That kind of thing. And his mother is part of it as well. But that's what I would do with a reboot. That's what I would do. I would do a full-on background on Jason and a whole storyline of Jason. He doesn't have to speak. And I think there's a really... This is why I've said every time I've talked about Friday the 13th on this channel, I think there's a really good movie in there. I think there's a really good character, really good story that's completely by accident. When they made Friday the 13th, it was, so that Halloween, that's making a lot of money. Is there a way we could cash in on that? Sure. And again, Jason's birthday's on Friday the 13th. That's when she's there is on the Friday. It's the 13th. And Jason's in the lake and either drowns or almost drowns. I think it works. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And I have no problem with the idea of doing this with Nightmare on Elm Street as well. If there was going to be a Nightmare on Elm Street reboot. And then just going further down the rabbit hole, how you would bring them all together. I think with Freddy and Jason, it would be really easy to have them in the exact same universe. Freddy can be a custodian at that summer camp. Yep. And then you tie that in. You could just have, hey, Fred, can you go over and clean that up? Yep, gotcha, boss. And you go, is that Fred Krueger? And that's it. That's it. You don't... Because again, I'm a big believer that you need to make people wait. That it's better if you make people wait. One of the reasons we love the Avengers movies so much is that by the time you get to Endgame, it felt like it was epic. Like it was, we finally got what we've been waiting for. And with horror movies, they don't do that. I'll close with this. I watched a video last night that made me think to do this, which was about the movie Deadly Friend, made by Wes Craven. Deadly Friend is a great movie. I love Deadly Friend. I had a poster on my wall of Deadly Friend. I got it from the local video store because I wouldn't stop bothering them about it. That Deadly Friend, I watched it on VHS and I was like, okay, I need this movie. And it came out after Nightmare on Elm Street. It's easy to forget that that's a Wes Craven movie. But the studio forced in a bunch of gory scenes that Wes didn't intend to have in there. And it's interesting, too, because in Deadly Friend, the gory scenes don't feel like they fit the rest of the movie. And now I understand why. And Deadly Friend was a movie that I got the book Friend, that the movie's based on, loved the book. And I wanted to actually, I started writing a screenplay for how to fix and put together what Deadly Friend is and what Friend was and make it work. And it makes me angry now that Wes Craven's no longer with us. And Deadly Friend could have been so much better of a movie, but studios had to get in there. They had to wreck it. There's no way a studio would ever greenlight this movie. Because, again, I've only got 2 kills, and they're at the end. They're going to be like, you got to throw some kills in here. People are going to get bored. It's a Friday the 13th movie. You got to have... Where's the hockey mask? Could we have, like, a little tiny kid? Jason gets, like, a kid hockey mask and puts on a mask, and the kids go, that looks kind of cool. You got to have a hockey mask in there, don't you? Or people won't know it's Jason. So, that's where the problem would be, is that the studios will get in and they'll wreck it if they can. And then when it bombs, they go, don't look at us. He's the director. That was the writer. They buggered that up. We're not hiring them again. There you go. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And yeah, I have fun doing this kind of discussion. I do. I know I'm known for all the hockey stuff. And the hockey stuff does pay all the bills and all that. But I love talking about this stuff. Because, hey, again, I think Friday the 13th, you could make some really good movies. And for whatever reason... it's easier just to make the quick buck and crap slasher films, and it's too bad. But let me know your thoughts, and hey, thank you guys so much for watching, and do hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through you just happened upon this video. I will talk to you again soon.